Welcome to Did You Know number 22. Anna's got a couple of things she's going to go over. We're in Deuteronomy.
I know we'll eventually get out of Deuteronomy, but there's stuff that most people don't realize that's in Deuteronomy that was created back in the day. You know, when I was growing up, everybody thought that, oh, the poor Egyptians, they didn't know how to write. They used pictures to communicate. And,
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
They thought people were stupid back then. But
They were stupid back then.
They were smarter than us.
Oh.
Way smarter than us.
Do tell.
Do tell. I will. Thanks for asking. Deuteronomy chapter 27. Deuteronomy 27, verse 2.
Deuteronomy 27:2. And it shall be on the day when you shall pass over Jordan unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, that thou shalt set thee up great stones and plaster them with plaster.
Did you know, for all the handymen out there, that plaster was created or invented, whatever word you want to use, way back in the Old Testament. It wasn't something new. And I'm sure when they made plaster, it was plastered. Ah! Get it? Alright, next one. Next one is... Which one did I pick? Here we go. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28, verse 53 through 57.
Deuteronomy 28:53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter, and towards her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and towards her children which she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates.
I don't know if people realize that. I know most people realize that, okay, people back then used their children as sacrifice. They would, burn it through Molech. You put it on this hot, molten idol statue, and you would burn your kid. But how many of you actually knew that they ate their children? There was also another place. It was 2 Kings
6.
2 Kings 6.
Yeah, that was a prophecy in Deuteronomy 28 that they would eat their own children. And in 2 Kings chapter 6, you see it fulfilled. In 2 Kings 6, there is a woman who goes to the king of Israel. Verse 28, the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, This woman said unto me, Give thy son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son, and did eat him. And I said unto her on the next day, Give thy son, that we may eat him, and she hath hid her son. So in other words, she comes to the king saying, Hey, we killed her boy and ate him yesterday, and we're supposed to kill... we killed my boy and ate him yesterday. We're supposed to kill her boy today and eat him. And she won't do it, so make her pay up. Let's kill the boy and eat him. So that shows the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28.
That is my 2.
That's her 2. So now, in the middle of the video, throwing you for a loop, we're going to have our question and answer. You thought it'd be at the end, but no. Worlds are turning around. It's going crazy here. Last time we had the question, who slew 800 people at one time? And congratulations to Charles Martel, the only one who got the answer. The answer is found in 2 Samuel 23, verse 8, as he pointed out. 2 Samuel 23, verse 8. These be the names of the mighty men whom David had, the Tachmonite that sat in the seat, chief among the captains. The same was Adino the Eznite. He lift up his spear against 800, whom he slew at one time. So congratulations, Charles Martel. Adino the Eznite is the correct answer for who slew 800 at once.
Now, I got a question. Was that 800, was his spear so long that it just went through all of them at the same time? Or is it talking about one time as in one battle?
I think it's just one battle. I can't see.
I was going to say, that's a huge spear.
I don't think that could have happened. I think he was more like vastly outnumbered, and there were 800 around him, and he just with one spear killed 800 all by himself. But not in one swipe. It took him probably 800 swipes or something like that, yeah.
I'm sitting there going, man, was he a giant? That's the biggest spear in history.
Okay, the question for next time. The answer is in 1 Kings. The question is, who used a woman as a heater? Who used a woman as a heater? Heater. You know, you're cold and you turn the heat on to get heat. Who used a woman as a heater? You need to give me the name of the person and the passage where that is in. Okay, so now my two did you knows. We were talking about eating the child. Well, here's one, 1 Kings 3 and verse 16. Then came there 2 women that were harlots unto the king, that was unto King Solomon, and stood before him. And the one woman said, O my lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the 3rd day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we 2 in the house. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she rose at midnight, and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king, the one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in 2, and give half to the one, and half to the other. Then spake the woman whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. So, basically, did you know that there is a story in the Bible where the king used wisdom to say, divide the child in half and give half to one and half to the other, in order to determine who was the mother? When I was a kid, everybody knew this story. They always, popular children's story, they told this about the great wisdom of Solomon. But nowadays, people don't read the Bible. They don't have the children's stories. So I thought I'd throw that out there. Maybe you didn't know that. And also, by the way, you may think it's a strange story, and you may think, well, that's not wise at all. But basically, it's here. It did happen, but the 2 children are types there, and the one that died is a type of the Antichrist. and the one who lived, the one who was born before that, is a type of the Lord Jesus Christ. So that's why the story is there. It's as a type. I mean, it really happened, but it's as a type. So that's the first did you know that I have. Did you know that Solomon said to divide a child in half? And then the second did you know, 1 Kings 4, verse 21. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms from the river unto the land of the Philistines and unto the border of Egypt. They brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life. And Solomon's provision for one day was 30 measures of fine flour and 80 measures of meal, 10 fat oxen and 20 oxen out of the pastures, and 100 sheep beside harts and roebucks and fallow deer and fatted fowl. So did you know that the daily provision for King Solomon was 30 measures of fine flour, 80 measures of meal, 10 fat oxen, 20 oxen out of the pastures, 100 sheep, harts, roebucks, fallow deer, and fatted fowl? That's a lot of food. Now, I understand Solomon didn't eat it all. I know that. It's for the whole king's house. But still, it's a lot of food. I mean, you think of President Trump and all the servants and everybody that lives in the White House. I don't think they eat that much food every day. It just shows an awful lot amount of food. It shows how big Solomon's kingdom was. All right. So those are our Did You Knows for number 22. Join us next time.